Microphone check, 1, 2, what is this? It's the 5'7" assassin in the podcast business. I am your host, Rohan Patra, the rap music plug at your service.
Here we are again at the end of a rainbow.
2022 has been the year of marquee albums coming to fruition in hip-hop. After 20 plus years, we finally got that Black Star album. Billy Woods and Preservation, two artists that were an absolute match made in heaven, came together and blessed us with Aethiopes. And then Danger Mouse and Black Thought came through with their collab album Cheat Codes. But no other album in 2022 captured the intrigue of hip-hop heads quite like the long-awaited collaboration between the almighty Alchemist and Roc Marciano, titled The Elephant Man's Bones. Expectations were sky high, for myself included, so I can't wait to give you my take on if those lofty expectations were met or disappointingly failed to live up to the hype. The Rap Music Plug podcast presented by QLC TV is the remedy to the I don't have anything good to listen to problem. Through in-depth album and song reviews, as well as artist interviews and general rap commentary sprinkled in between on all of what the mainstream and underground rap scenes have to offer, this is your one-stop shop to knowing what to add to your queue, play next, or pop into your record player. Welcome to the show. Roc Marciano has been a pioneer of sorts ever since he broke out onto the scene as a solo artist in 2010. His quieter delivery, penchant to rap over drumless beats, and this high art approach to street rap set trends that we are still witnessing till this day. So as one of my all-time favorite artists, which Roc certainly is now, him linking up with The Alchemist was a ridiculous fantasy draft of a pairing. It was just too good to be true, especially since The Alchemist is still somehow peaking 20 plus years into his amazing career. Now, The Alchemist has created magic with Roc Marciano in the past, consistently producing the standout instrumentals in Roc's very storied discography. And when you listen closely to those beats, Alchemist certainly has a particular style and blueprint for these kinds of beats that he's made for Roc. And it's clear that he has done what Alk has historically done so well working with other rappers, tailoring his sound to best suit the rapper's strengths. Creating beats for Marcy that fit the traditionally minimal Marcy soundscape where the beats aren't too busy and don't shift away focus from Roc's vocals, giving space in that channel of the beat to really breathe, but still give him a certain groove to work within that complements Marcy so damn well. These were all things that I came into this new album expecting. And this was the first thing I took in when listening to The Elephant Man's Bones. I was curious to see where Alchemist would take the sound. Would he get more experimental and maybe surprise us, or do something a little bit more off kilter, which he has proven time and time again that he is able to do and do very well. But I'm happy to say that The Alchemist kept with the tried and true approach from working with Marcy in the past and didn't try to outthink what has already worked and been successful. The Alchemist beats on this album have an indistinct swing that gives you something to bob your head to, even in the most low-key of moments on this record. Take a song like Trillion Cut with Boldy James, which is honestly my least favorite beat on this album, but that being said, it still brings something enjoyable to the table with its nice rhythm that gives a tempo for Marcy and Boldy James to play off of. The Alchemist has really mastered the different flavors and tones you can really foster with a hip-hop instrumental, and he showcases that incredibly well on this record. All this being said, however, I wouldn't say that this album sounds exactly like what Alchemist has produced for Roc in the past. The Alchemist heavily digs into this suave, uber luxurious sound that Marcy sounds amazing over. The keys are just dancing throughout this record, propelling tracks like Bubble Bath, the title track, Deja Vu. And I didn't know The Alchemist would necessarily take it in this direction, but it's such a natural fit for a rapper like Roc Marciano, who has frequented these musical worlds many times over in the past, yet hasn't truly worked within a musical canvas that is as consistently elegant as it is on the Elephant Man's Bones. He also incorporates those weird, kooky, muted drum type beats that Marcy had all over the Bitter Dose. Think of tracks like CVS, with tracks like Daddy Kane off this new album, which reminds me a whole lot of Sax Fifth, not only in the kind of type of beat, but just in the smoothness and the subject matter from Roc Marciano. I just love it so much. Finally, this record showcases that The Alchemist may be the single best producer when it comes to crafting a sound for an album that is not only cohesive, but flows like water. Just as the song transitions were on previous great Alchemist produced records like Alfredo, Haram, Fetty, Alchemist weaves together these songs on Elephant Man's Bones perfectly. Even when from track to track, the flavors of the songs differ, whether it be a little transition or interlude, The Alchemist pieces it all together brilliantly. For instance, after Deja Vu, Quantum Leap comes in following this unsettling outro of the previous track, sounding like you're slowly descending into a bad dream, jolting you into this high urgency scene once the Quantum Leap beat kicks in. It's just so phenomenal the way he put it all together so seamlessly. Given the insane hype for this album, The Alchemist still found a way to impress me, and that was through his dedication to understanding the task at hand, opting for beats that were more unassuming than I expected and less attention-grabbing, but fit Roc Marciano's style like a glove. He opted to do what was best for the album and gave Marcy the proper backdrop and appropriate amount of space to be firmly in the spotlight, and the album was better for it. So The Alchemist more than did his part, so we now need to get to the Roc Marciano side of this equation and discuss what he did under the spotlight that The Alchemist created for him. A trend that really began to kick into motion on Reloaded, that was further taken to another level on Rosebud's Revenge, is Marcy's growing command over his voice. He has perfected how to deploy his voice on a track, structuring his cadence in a way that is one of a kind. The use of negative space, the irregular pauses, differing vocal inflections, the iconic ad-libs are all used to amazing effect. At the beginning of his opening verse on Zip Guns, where he raps, "After this chain of events, where your chain went," it's such an earworm, particularly because of the exaggerated whispery tone of his voice, something that he deploys multiple times on this album. And it's so perfect because it makes the verse pop so much more, because it gives this otherwise very menacing statement a downright playful quality that is so engaging. And in addition to how his voice is used, what he's saying with said voice has been continuously refined over the years. In preparation for this review, I made sure to revisit Marcy's back catalog, particularly my two favorite records of his in The Bitter Dose and Reloaded. I wanted to see how Roc's rapping has progressed over the years, and now I can comfortably say that Roc Marciano has never rapped better than he has on Elephant Man's Bones. He's simply never been so sharp and concise and clever. The conviction and lyrical precision displayed on this album is stupendous, which elevates the stakes of his street tales, further accentuates the effect of his swagger, because every word that comes out of his mouth is so effortless and well chosen. He knows exactly which buttons to press, turning the dial up on the cold, detached intensity with lines like, "I'm standing over your dead parents fanning flies on horns of Abraxas." That is just nuts, such a wild statement. Or really the entirety of Rubber Hand Grip, which is just a masterclass in confidence and cleverness with words. There's many other songs like Daddy Kane and Deja Vu that show off Marcy's player tendencies to great results, I loved the way he closed out Deja Vu with this basketball sex type bar where he says, "No OGs to give us pointers, we been in corners. Shorty could have been on the Hornets knocking down 3-pointers. The release is water." Just insane. But being a slick player and delivering street raps with the best of them have been trademarks for Marcy for many years now. On Elephant Man's Bones, though, Roc gives us a bit more than that this time around. In multiple ways, this record illuminates more of Roc Marciano as a person than ever before. Although he's let his guard down in the past from time to time very sparingly, he gets more personal than normal on this album. Again, not a lot more personal, but just a bit more, and it's noteworthy. And most importantly, when he does, like on Stigmata and Think Big, that are very reflective, the bluster and larger-than-life ego recedes in a significant way, which makes those moments feel especially captivating and kind of stick in your brain just a bit more, showing us rare glimpses of open honesty and vulnerability, even if the moments are in fact quite brief. In contrast, when Marcy is then in his really womanizing player streetwise persona, the aura that Marcy inhabits on this record is truly larger than life and seemingly more flagrant in that aspect. With most rappers out there, as the ego begins to inflate and as the artist is becoming more and more aware of their persona, usually the music suffers, but that is actually not the case at all with Roc Marciano. It's quite the opposite. Because over the years, Roc has let his charisma and personality bleed more into his music than ever before, leading to lyricism that is just drenched in lavish absurdity. It allows him to pull off these ridiculous rhymes like "Dracula bit me, I didn't bleed" with relative ease. Because we as a listener have just fully suspended disbelief within the musical universe of Roc Marciano. Everything goes if it sounds cool. His lyricism gives his otherwise murderous verses so much levity and fun, especially when the pimp talk is sprinkled in between. Marcy has pushed the envelope so far to the point now where regular lyrics feel dry and flat in comparison. It's one thing to put together a bunch of great rhymes on a piece of paper, but it's another thing to do what Roc Marciano has done, which is incorporate his charismatic personality into his raps, so much so that he truly made murder sexy. Now, one thing I would have liked to see more of, though, on this record is the hooks, something he has been continuously straying away from even further as the discography of his has progressed. Now, although hook making isn't necessarily something you'd expect in this lane of hip-hop, Marcy has low-key been a great hook maker over the years. Listen back to Reloaded again and you will hear consistently well-crafted hooks all over that album. And I feel with an album like this that was still pretty lean, it had a bit of room just to be beefed up with a few catchy hooks. Doesn't mean you gotta have some R&B singer singing all over this record. That's not what I would want. But Marcy has shown in the past that he can elevate songs and make them even more memorable with his hook game. So I would have liked for him to just add a bit more of that element onto this record. It's a minor gripe, but it is still there. So, early on when I was sitting with this album, although I was loving it, I couldn't escape the feeling that it was just too safe, But this album is really just a much slower burn than the high-profile billing may suggest. Because over time, the accomplishment that The Elephant Man's Bones truly was began to reveal itself. Which is that it is a record that thrives due to sheer execution, taste, and personality in both beats and rhymes. And with that, I will conclude with this final thought. Surely the intimate, soulful production and deeply charming moments on the Bitter Dose or the vivid crime feature film vibe that you get from Reloaded are really hard to beat, I feel the lyrical marksmanship on the Elephant Man's Bones sets it apart. And at 38 minutes, this is his most potent, all-killer, no-filler record yet, and is what I can now say is the best Roc Marciano album ever. And if you disagree, that's totally fine. It's just an opinion. Because as Roc said on this album, I'm just on the mic exercising my rights. So there we have it, another episode of the Rap Music Plug podcast presented by QLC TV. I hope this episode gave you some new perspectives and insights into what the greatest art form known to man in hip-hop music has to offer. If you want to support the show in the most meaningful way possible, it would be my absolute honor to have you as a patron in the new Rap Music Plug podcast Patreon. Through this Patreon, you will be getting exclusive content such as bonus episodes, exclusive album recommendations, exclusive playlists, early access to episodes, and more. And above all, though, you will be able to support the show directly in a way that will not only justify the crazy amount of time I spend on this show already, but allow me to cover some of the expenses related to supporting all of these great artists that we cover on the show through the website, and will allow us to sustain and build on this amazing growth that the RMPP has experienced recently. Big shout out to Dano of Free Music Empire, Levi, Steel Tip Dove, Kakoa, Mahima, Jeff, Mitch, Dash Lewis, Pancake Cleaner, Trey, Noah, Justin, Brandon, Joe, Gavin, Matt, Teddy Faley, Jackson, Kian, Slumber Logic, Fatman Tomb, and Khalid for your generous support through the Patreon. I really appreciate it. So if you have any questions about any of the Patreon stuff, or just want to keep tabs on the show, interact with me on rap music and all the great stuff that we can talk about, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at rapmusicplugpod, or shoot me an email at qlctv.podcast@gmail.com. You can also rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts and subscribe on YouTube and Spotify as well. But that's enough self-promotion for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Peace.